What's up, guys? It's Ben with 2020 election predictions, and today I'm going to be talking about the state of Arizona and its importance in the 2020 election, in the presidential race, and in the Senate race. And please, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. I'm trying to get 500 by the end of the month, and if I get there, then I would do an even bigger giveaway than the last time. So just diving right in, as you can see, this is on one of the projections. The closest state right now that they think, which I don't agree with this forecast completely. I think that Donald Trump still has a slight advantage in Florida and in North Carolina, even though that this website doesn't reflect it. But as we can see, Arizona, they say, is the closest race right now, which I think Arizona will be the closest race in 2020. And I think it definitely has the potential to be the tipping point. If Trump were to keep all of the states that he won in 2016, but loses Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Arizona, then he will lose the election. But if he keeps all the states and only loses Michigan and Pennsylvania and wins Arizona, then Donald Trump is reelected very, very narrowly in 2020. So let's kind of look back at the history of Arizona and like how it is trending leftward and what this means for 2020. So right now, Trump in 2016 won this state by 3.5 points, as you can see right here. But John McCain and Romney, who both lost their respective presidential elections, actually did a lot better. It makes sense that John McCain won, because he's from the state of Arizona. Even in a wave year for Democrats in 2008, when Barack Obama won in a landslide, John McCain still did very well in Arizona. He won by 8 or 9 points. Arizona was not a swing state by any means. And same with Mitt Romney in 9.1. Mitt Romney, kind of the epitome of the country club Republican type mold. He appealed to a lot to the whites with college degrees and kind of the suburban Republican voters. And then in 2016, Trump underperformed Romney by about 6 points. He still won the state. This wasn't really considered a super competitive swing state. I don't think Hillary Clinton expected to win this state, but going up to election day, there were some polls that had Hillary Clinton in the margin of error, and even I think a few that had her in the lead. But I think the most commentators say the reason for Trump's underperformance compared to Mitt Romney is that the demographics of Arizona are changing rapidly, and also Trump kind of appealed a lot to his base, the white working class, which helped him in the Rust Belt. But in Arizona, a lot of commentators think it turned off suburban voters, female voters, and whites with college degrees sometimes. But I mean, obviously, Trump won and McCain and Romney didn't. So Trump's strategy in the end worked. But going into 2020, it could be a different story. Um, Going into 2018 was not a great year for the Republicans in the midterm elections. As we can see, Kristen Sinema, the Democratic's nominee for Senate, beat Martha McSally. And this came as a surprise to a lot of people. I mean, Arizona has always voted Republican on the national level, but 2018 being a wave year, and maybe Martha McSally was not the best candidate. Kristen Sinema won by 2.5 points, which reflects about a 5.5 to 6 point swing from 2016 when Donald Trump won. And I think a lot of Republicans were very disappointed. They thought Martha McSally was going to be a rising star in the party. She was a woman. She was an Air Force veteran. They thought this was going to be the new energy. She's fairly young, in her early 50s. But and also Kristen Sinema, although she had the she tried to appear as a moderate, I did not think she was a very strong candidate for the Democrats, but she still won. Um, and so some Republicans after this election questioned the idea in the media that, oh, um Trump turned off suburbanites and women because they thought that Martha McSally would be able to win these voters back. It's hard to know whether the 2018 election was a referendum on Trump or if the voters of Arizona were really looking at these two candidates. But going into 2020, Martha McSally is on the ballot again. So let me kind of explain this a little bit. So Martha McSally lost in 2018, and then in 2018, John McCain died, and rest in peace, John McCain. I think he's a very respectable U.S. senator. But the governor, Governor Ducey, and he actually was reelected governor in 2018. So while Martha McSally lost, he was a very popular governor, showing that a Republican can do well in the state of Arizona. So he appointed Martha McSally, the loser of the 2018 Senate election, to replace John McCain. Now, I was very critical about this at the time because I just do not think this is a great political move. The voters of Arizona decided that they did not want Martha McSally to be their senator, even though a lot of people think that Martha McSally should have won. She didn't. And I think what Governor Ducey was thinking is like, oh, it's about half and half. So half of the voters wanted Kristen Sinema, half of them wanted Martha McSally. Why don't we balance the ticket? I still think that Governor Ducey should have chosen a different candidate. Martha McSally had her shot and she didn't, but nevertheless, Governor Ducey appointed Martha McSally, and she is on the ballot again because it's a special election because she was appointed. And she's going to run against Mark Kelly. And I totally understand where Governor Ducey's coming from. I think there is some pressure for him to appoint Martha McSally because the GOP wants to do better with women and they want more representation at the national level. Brian Kemp did the same thing in Georgia with Kelly Loeffler, and that is a whole disaster too. We can talk about that later in a future video. But right now, as this race stands, Martha McSally is doing horribly in polls against Mark Kelly. And let me just give some context on this, right? So Mark Kelly is a former astronaut. I think that Mark Kelly is a better candidate than Kristen Sinema. And obviously, Martha McSally only lost by 2.5 points to Kristen Sinema in 2018. But right now, Mark Kelly is up in the polls by 13, 12 points. And this is really bad news for the Republicans. And I was reading an article where they were saying that Joe Biden can actually run on the coattails of Mark Kelly. Just because Mark Kelly is so popular in Arizona, people who vote for Mark Kelly and are undecided at the presidential level might lean towards Joe Biden because Mark Kelly and Joe Biden are definitely going to run on each other in 2020. So this might be bad news for Trump. I really don't think Martha McSally has a chance unless something significantly happens. I think these polls are a little bit skewed. I do think having Donald Trump on the ballot, that Martha McSally will do a little better. I think she'll probably lose between 3 and 5 points. But the presidential election is really undecided. And in recent history, like in 2016, no state voted for a different party for president and as Senate. So this could be bad news for the Republicans because this state I definitely having as leaning towards the Democrats of the Senate election, even though I still think it's a toss up in the presidential election. A lot of voters just do not split the tickets nowadays just because everyone's so partisan. But to maybe leave it on a more optimistic note for Republicans, I know I've kind of said this is the doomsday scenario. It doesn't look like that Donald Trump or Martha McSally have a chance in Arizona. There's been a lot of media hype about this. I mean, in Texas and Georgia, every cycle there's this idea that, oh, it might go blue, and it's the same hype with Arizona. But at the end of the day, Arizona, Texas, and Georgia all went to the Republicans in 2016. So it's likely to go to the Republicans in 2020. That this is kind of the argument from Republican strategists. And also the fact that all these polls are coming amid the coronavirus, and that could skew a lot of the polls against the incumbent president, even though when it's over, people might have forgotten about the coronavirus response, even though I'm not entirely bought into that argument. But I do think that the coronavirus can put a drag on the incumbent president's polls just because people distrust government. And lastly, the a lot of the immigration into Arizona has been from California, and they've kind of been economic refugees. So a lot of these people have left high tax states like California, Nevada, and even New Mexico, and have come into Arizona because it has low taxes and it's less regulations and it's a better economic environment. So, and there's been a lot of political science on these types of voters, and they aren't extremely partisan, and they can tilt either way. And so, some Republican strategists thinks that because the Democratic Party has moved so leftward, that they will actually vote for Donald Trump and a Republican in the Senate just because they're so fed up with kind of the high taxes, um, where it's hard to do business. But obviously, it's going to be really interesting. I don't think that Governor Ducey's appointment of Martha McSally will pay off. I think that will be looked at as a mistake, but who knows? There's still a lot of time in the election. So please let me know what you think. I'm going to be doing future videos just focused on states with like Georgia, Wisconsin, North Carolina, and other states. So please comment suggestions on what you want, and please subscribe here if you haven't.